Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. The word is out now in the big companies in that he's working on other deals, but he hasn't let anything slip, so nobody's pounding him about it. But you should try to tie some financial incentive to you for getting the deals done for them quicker. And, of course, that means they'd have to change the contract, and God almighty, I don't know. That'd take an act. Merkel would have to get involved to change a German contract. But he's done it well, a little slow. But he followed the steps 99%. 99%. And and he's got a quality board. These are names you don't got to explain about. Somebody asked me on one of the YouTube questions, not live yesterday, but on YouTube, why I had $820 to start, which means I had 82% of the company, not 100%. Well, I had an anchor chairman who had 18% of the company. His name was Bobo Anderson. He was a former Secretary of the Treasury under Eisenhower. He was my first chairman. And his wife got sick with cancer. And I didn't know about his other problems because he didn't tell me about those. And so he resigned, and I bought his stock. Or actually gifted me the stock. I didn't even have to buy it. So that's why the basis is 820 instead of 1,000 because the company was originally. And I was in the process of building the dream team. Okay, any questions or comments about Andreas? Yes, sir.
He financed it by himself at first, and then after.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to finance other than the travel. Yes. Starbucks, no lunches or dinners other than the final dinner. And full disclosure, Sally paid for the final dinner. And so we paid for the final dinner, which he's supposed to, but make a long story short, we just said, this is our gift to the board, so we paid for it. And then after I saw the bill, I choked a little bit. So he finances himself, but he's working. I mean, he has a well-paying job. He's not sucking on gas fumes like some of the people that come here. He wasn't sucking on gas fumes. He was a well-respected senior financial analyst, well-paid. And but he saw for 15 years him making millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions for somebody else. And as they say in Kentucky, that's a big goddamn incentive. And, of course, he says, I wish I came 10 years early. I mean, everybody says that, but he's still, well, to some of us in the room, 34 is still a young guy. You know, yes, sir.
It's a little bit of a gray-haired question, but in terms of when you receive offers to be a chairman or a non-executive director, maximizing your economic benefit from participating in that capacity.
Correct. Okay, good question. Now, that is a good question, but there's only a couple of us in the room that can relate to it. Okay, but I'm going to answer it. What he said is that how do you weigh offers as non-executive director, from non-executive chairman to industry expert, whatever.
And maximize your economic.
And get the most bang for your buck for yourself. It's all the person. It's, all of you can have deals, but your relationship with the company is only one person thick. My relationship with Dan is only one person thick. Okay? And so you have to put your money, not money. You have to make your bet on the person. On the person. And sometimes that is a bedpan deal, which isn't at big multiples, and sometimes that's a cybersecurity deal, which are huge multiples. But the cybersecurity guy isn't worth a shit. He's lazy, blah, 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 blah. And the bedpan guy or gal he's got chutzpah and drive. So that's the first thing that I look for. I look for the individual that's making me the offer. After I don't have any conflicts, if I determine there's no conflicts. The second thing about maximizing is, and I don't fight, and I don't recommend, and anybody that wants to fight over percentages with you, just next. I don't look at the percentages. I look at where the industry's going. And I made a bet 35 years ago on healthcare, and I've been dead right. My age group then and now don't want to die, and will spend any amount of money that there is to to keep alive. I didn't know that telco was going to morph into internet and internet was going to morph into... I didn't know that at the time, 35 years ago when I first was picking industries. Now, there are exceedingly larger multiples in many other areas in healthcare, but they're also tough as shit. I mean, the private equity, you've got to fight with private equity, you've got to fight with all these other investors that bid up the prices, and so the odds of you landing a deal are less. The odds of you landing a healthcare deal are greater. Now, Nagy picked a tough-ass part of healthcare, and there's certainly easier parts of healthcare than he's in, but the healthcare in general, generally speaking, is, even though it represents almost 20% of GDP in America, 17% here in the UK, 19% in the EU, they overlook it. And just because they have national health care, like in this country, they have the National Health Service that has been threatening to go privatized forever, but they still haven't. When that happens here, you should all move to the UK. It'll be like shooting fish in a barrel, okay, if they ever privatize it. But there's still opportunities here in the UK and in other countries that have National Health Service. It's a big margin business, and most of the people in healthcare, not me, are on the love end of the continuum. They want to help you, and that kind of thing. That's not me. And I'm not saying those people are more easily taken advantage of, but those people are more easily taken advantage of. In a right way, moral, legal, and ethical. Okay? And where there's a rule of law, moral and ethics swing in the wind, as you just heard from Mark Zuckerberg earlier this morning, and the only real thing is the rule of law. The only steadfast thing that I tell people, whether it's healthcare or anything else, is you got to have a rule of law. You can go to court. Getting back to your question, so how do you measure to get your most bang for your buck? But it's based on those, and you never know for sure. It's also easier to enter and exit healthcare because you don't want to be in these deals forever. The higher the tech, the harder it is to enter, and the harder it is to exit, because there's more competition, because the EBITDA spreads are higher. Now, all we're doing is a simple arbitrage. We're buying stuff at 3 to 6, 7 times cash flow, and we're exiting at 10, 12, 15 times cash flow on an industry scale. And if we get fortunate and we pay attention to what we're doing, we may exit it at 15 to 20 times in a public market at an IPO. So you don't have to be a genius or a financial wizard like Andrea says. Buy it 5 times, sell it 15. It's a pretty simple formula. And I just don't understand why more people don't do it. And part of it is because nobody teaches it except me and some of my wannabe me's, mini-me's that are running around. I would just give general advice to YouTube. Be careful of my mini-me's that are running around that say that they have my blessing. Did I answer your question?
We're part way there.
Okay. Any other comments about Andreas? He's as stiff as he looks, by the way. He wouldn't say shit if it was in his mouth. He walks around like he has a 2x4 up his ass. And not in a good way, as they say. Not a sexual way. I mean, he just, that's the way he is. Of course, Germany's very much like that. Yes, sir.
How do you get around to owning a healthcare company if you're not a doctor?
Well, we should ask Andrews that question. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be... now, certain healthcare companies, for example, if you're buying medical practices, MD doctors, general practitioners, in this country, I think half of the board has to be MDs. You don't have to be a medical doctor, but half of your board has to be MDs. In dental practice, in this country, half of the board has to be MDs. Where Jason is, you don't have to be MDs. In Australia, it's the Wild West, gunslingers shooting it out in the street. Okay, so you don't have to be a doctor. Many of the healthcare companies, the assisted living, home care, are owned by nurses, retired nurses, or not necessarily retired nurses, but just nurses. They're but in some states, and he talked about the transfer licenses. That's something and that's why you have industry experts on the board. You got to transfer the licenses, because without you may buy the entity, but if you don't get the license transferred, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean, and when we get more into it, we're buying assets. We're not buying companies if we can get away with it, because companies come with past liabilities, present liabilities, and future liabilities. But when you just buy assets, you got the clean entity. And we are cash flow borrowers. And part of the templates that you're going to get is one of the things you tell the banks is, I will never bring you a deal that doesn't pencil. That means the numbers make sense. Most of the deals that bankers are brought are horseshit. They don't pencil. They're not even remotely close to really being a deal. And deals to a banker is where cash flow of the existing business covers the debt service. It's all in the stuff that you're going to get. But Andreas followed the model pretty well, almost perfectly, which is not uncharacteristic of a German. That's just the way they do it. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So the average number of cold calls is between 1,200 and 1,800.
No, we gave 3 examples. You're going to see the slide. And I knew he kept track of his cold calls, but I didn't know it was 1,631 or whatever it was. The quickest super genius we had in the last 20 years did it in 1,200. The other 2 were good, but not as quick. The 1,200 was a gal. The 1,500 and the 1,800 were guys. In fact, the 1,800 was Bruce the Whipple. And he did it in 1,600. But I mean, in a cold call, and we define what a cold call is. A cold call is not leaving a message, not texting, not instant message, blah, blah, blah. It's talking to a living, breathing human being that can make a decision. And he knows the scripts, the difference between a prospect and a suspect. It's not that the Germanic people are slow learners, but they're slow learners because they want to, they're very careful to do things correctly. Other questions about Andreas? Any comments about Andreas? You're going to hear repeatedly the same things. They come out of their mouths differently, but the same things. You follow the scripts, you follow the shit, and you may do it slow, but you're going to do it. Remember, the 3-toed sloth is okay. Okay? The turtle is okay, and the jackrabbit is okay. A lot of the jackrabbits run out of gas. And because they get everything together in 4 or 5 weeks and then accept a motivated seller. And then they labor. And just as he said, he found this person that said yes, and he got all excited. Then he realized that, it wasn't a real motivated seller. And and now he knows a lot better, and the board. And he didn't mention, but I will mention, all of the 5 that we looked at were visited by him initially, then him and a board member, and in some cases him and 2 board members. The board members from the United Kingdom didn't visit any of the sites, but they were on conference call, Zoom, etc., to ask questions. And he's got some really smart guys. But all of them, vis-a-vis you, with 1 or 2 exceptions in the room, all of these guys and gals are going to be smarter than you vis-a-vis what you're going after. Because they've done it. That's why they're there. That's why they get free founders equity. That's why you're giving them bonuses on the goddamn transactions, because you're still going to make mistakes, but you're going to make a lot fewer mistakes. But they know. I mean, Andres has done a crack job, and notwithstanding the crap, the extra hoops that you have to go through with the German structure. Anything else about Andreas? Okay, YouTube, thank you.